your money. Let's speak to finance expert Roddy. He joins us live now from Bristol. Very good morning to you. First of all, just take us through these inflation figures. 5.2%, higher than most economists predicted. Why is that?
Well, it's as usual a combination of factors and not just one single thing. Part of what we're experiencing in the UK is that we're importing goods that are actually costing more than they did in the past because the manufacturers of those televisions and radios and so on, Sam, want to see their prices rise. Their economies are buoyant, people are enjoying a much higher standard of living, and so that passes on that cost, if you like, increase onto the consumer in the UK. And of course, if you add to that, Sam, the fact that the pound is a lot weaker and therefore goods just naturally become more expensive.
Now, we've got this inflation figure, 5.2%, weekly earnings growing at just 1.8%. You don't have to be economist to work out that the pressure really is on our purse strings. How are we going to manage? And what is your advice to those of us who really do need it?
Yeah, I think the pressure is going to stay on for some time, unfortunately. In reality, as you quite rightly said, the increase that people are experiencing in their workplace is nowhere near the increase that they're feeling in the price of goods and services in their pocket. I mean, we talk about inflation at over 5%, but in reality, utility bills, gas, electric, and so on have gone up by significantly more, and rail travel, and that's the problem. So to answer your question, I think the reality is for many, many consumers, they have to go back to basics. They have to go back to analysing their expenditure almost by the week and trying to find opportunities to get those costs down, and especially what I would call, if you like, unnecessary spending. They might be some of the things that in the past, Sam, we've taken for granted, like gym membership and so on, and ask yourself, do I really need that and can I afford it in the current circumstances?
Who's going to suffer? Is it the retailers at the higher end of the chain, the Marks and Spencers, the Waitrose, where perhaps people are saying, actually, I can't afford those prices anymore?
Yeah, I think there's some truth in that, really, because for many consumers, there will be certain things like heating, lighting, the basic necessities in life, food, that have to have priority, meeting your mortgage payments. And so in reality, all of those will come out of your income straight away. And for many people, it's amazing to think that will take up almost 2/3 of their income straight away. And so they have to balance what they've got left and prioritize whether they need those new clothes or shoes and so on. So I do think retailers are going to have a much tougher time of it. But with a bit of luck, the 75 billion that's theoretically at least being injected into the economy in the last few weeks will work its way through to those organisations, to the employees, and in the process keep people spending a little, just not as much as they were doing, say, 3, 4, 5 years ago.
It's a vicious cycle, isn't it? Because people need to spend to try and inject that growth into the economy that we desperately need, but we just can't afford it. So how is the government going to balance that?
With great difficulty. I mean, what we're seeing at the moment, it reminds me of the old days when I had a car that I could hardly afford to maintain. It cost me 75 quid. And in reality, when it broke down, the first thing I had to do was get my head under the bonnet of that car and start tweaking around, you know, becoming a bit of a DIY enthusiast. And so inevitably there is going to be a lot of that going on. People will curtail their expenditure, and as you quite rightly said, that in turn then has an impact on business. And of course it also, Sam, has an impact on morale, if you like, and how people feel. And that's what the government's real problem is they've got to somehow change things so that people start to feel good about the future, a bit more optimistic than pessimistic.
Yeah, we all need that, don't we? Roddy, thanks very much for joining us and your sound advice as ever this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.